What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm joined by Janelle. Um, so I'll allow Janelle to introduce herself first before we delve into the conversation today.
What's up, everybody? My name is Janelle Okul. I am a counseling psychologist based at Kisumu County Referral Hospital, and I'm happy to be on your channel today.
Thank you. So, as you are aware, today is World Suicide Awareness Day. I hope I got that right.
Yes.
And I just wanted to have a conversation about something that we've been having a lot behind the scenes. And I just wanted to bring it on so that we could also get your feedback around it. So the place of resilience when we're talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And we'll finish up by just telling you some of the warning signs for suicide as we commemorate the World Suicide Awareness Day. So I'll start slides. So what is mental health?
Okay, that's a very interesting question because I feel like it's something people don't usually know about. So our mental health is simply our well-being. It enables us to realize our full potential, deal with day-to-day life stresses, learn, live, and make a meaningful contribution to our society. In short, it's just our well-being. How able are you to wake up in the morning, do your normal day-to-day tasks, face the challenges that come to you every day without having breakdowns? Yeah, basically that's mental health, our well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk about mental health, a lot of people normally only talk about it when it's too late.
Yeah.
Some of the warning signs are not really evident. It could just present as someone being over ambitious,
Yeah.
working too much, being workaholic,
Yeah.
being a clean freak and not wanting any form of dirt around them and all that.
Yeah.
But like in the prevention of mental health, we rarely talk about resilience.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about because the way the world is wired, there's a lot of triggers everywhere. And as when you talk about prevention, the trigger and all these other things are part of and parcel of what we must talk about.
Yeah.
And so my question is on resilience. How do we infuse resilience into mental health? Is there a way that when you build resilience and internal strength
Yes.
amongst within yourself,
Yeah.
is it possible to be able to then enjoy better health mentally than when you are sort of just there and not building resilience enough? And what are the ways that you could build resilience?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question actually. In matters of resilience, the conversations about mental health, first of all, have been so silent. Nobody has been talking about it, and the people who talk about it don't really quite understand what the concept is. So basically, the focus has been mainly on awareness creation and prevention, as you've said, and it's because people do not know on what mental health is. So you see, for it to get to a point of whereby we're preaching on resilience, we need to make people even aware of what we are trying to build their resilience about. So in matters of resilience, there are a lot of ways to build resilience, but first it comes with identifying there is a problem, because at the end of the day, you can't build resilience on something you've not identified. And that is where a lot of people go wrong in mental health. You've said you can have people who are just functioning normally at the end of the day and you feel like they're okay, but they actually need the help. So it starts by first identifying where there is a problem, and now we start building on things like coping skills, and that is eventually what builds up to resilience. Identifying your own triggers at the end of the day. You need to know, when I'm in certain situations, how does this trigger something inside of me? So it's a whole wide aspect as to resilience, and I feel like it's in steps. But the first step at the very core is identifying where there is a problem and when there is a problem. Until I worked at Mathari Hospital, I never really quite understood the concept of mental health. I thought it was some big thing, but at the end of the day, it's the things that you get to see each and every day. You get into a matatu, there is a lady shouting over 20 bob change. people will look at her like it's very odd, it's very weird, and pass it out at the end of the day. But these are the signs that are there each and every day. Your kid is coming back home from school, they don't wanna go home. They don't wanna go to school, sorry, the next day. Instead of the parent trying to find out what could be happening to my child for them not to want to go to school tomorrow. These are the things that we live with, the signs each and every day. I come back home, I'm so exhausted, I don't want to talk to people. I am isolating myself from my family members. So the conversation needs to be very loud on what mental health is, first of all, and how to differentiate mental health from mental health problems. Because you see, that is where the mix up comes in. Because people will just look at the problems and not what being in perfect mental health is. So, first core to resilience is identifying there is a problem, and we can only do that through creating awareness as much as possible.
Yeah, so on creating awareness, which I think is a big part as well of mental health, so that just people know some of the warning signs. I am still always very passionate about resilience. And so for me, for example, maybe you can tell me if maybe some of the things that I'm doing is wrong. I'm very passionate in building resilience in my children, for example, to be able to cope in this world, because I understand that you might bring out a perfectly functioning, kind, very well-mannered child, and then they're thrust into an environment where some people just do not care about what their children do. Like their children are abusive and they want to abuse my child. And I understand that you cannot live in a bubble. So there's every single day that you're confronted with people who are just ill-mannered.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I do is to let them know that you must defend yourself.
Yeah.
And part of defending yourself is standing up to bullies and ensuring that you're not constantly on the receiving end.
Yeah.
And you don't get to report things to me that you can sort out. And part of me is because I'm not an expert in mental health, I'm just trying to be a good parent.
Yeah.
I feel like that will go on to protect them in the long term, but I don't know whether that also brings out some trauma.
Yeah.
That will be there for a very long time. Because I, for example, refuse to fight wars that I can feel my child can fight at their level.
Yeah.
And so I'm not the overprotective parent who will always want to guard their child against falling. Like you just fall, and then you wake up, and then you understand that when people fall, they can still wake up. I don't want to make you feel that you can live in a world where you will not fall.
Yeah.
You have to fall.
Yeah.
And so I'm not the kind of parent who is like very overprotective of my child, but I'm wondering whether that can, in the long term, cause trauma to the child.
To some extent, you've said something. We are not living in a bubble at the end of the day. To you, if that's what you feel is best for you as a parent, then it is. And at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, it's also protecting them on some aspect, because you'll go out there, you'll meet different people in the world. Another thing I would urge you to implore is just getting them to understand themselves on a very, very deep level. Because I've realized one of the things, you can have all the resilience, all the coping mechanisms and everything, but it comes down to you as a person. How self-aware are you? Because you'll always meet people out there. Sometimes you can't fight everybody. There are fights you'll have to just walk away from.
Yes.
You need to identify, how does this person trigger this emotional reaction in me? So it comes down to a lot of things, the resilience aspect of it, but I feel like to the core, self-awareness is literally everything, because at the end of the day, if you're very self-aware, there's some things you'll not even try to get into.
Yeah, and I remember like my dad said one thing, when we were growing up, there was a time, I think a child told me that I'm a dog or something.
Yeah.
And then I came very angry and reported. And my dad told me something that has lived with me for a very long time and has really helped me in very many situations. He asked me, "Are you a dog? Are you barking? Are you walking in with your four legs? Like go and look at the dog. Do you look like a dog?" If someone calls you a dog, it means they're mentally unwell. Like you can physically see that I'm not a dog, but then you're calling me a dog. And that should not really affect me. And I get it when you say that that there are certain things you don't have to react to because
Yeah.
you just know who you are, and it comes from a place of deep self-awareness.
Yeah, and also at the end of the day, one thing I've got to learn about bullies over time, it's not usually about you, it's about the other person.
Yeah.
It's about the insecurities they feel on their part and they will try to impose it on you. You find that even some bullies are bullied at home. So when you tend to look at things from a deeper level and perspective, you
Yeah.
get to realize like a lot of the external things that are happening are not because of us
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So back to
Yeah.
self-awareness.
Yeah.
But then again, you've said something on resilience. Do you think being so resilient can make somebody hard and closed off? What
Yeah.
are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it does. I can use my example. Like there's very little things that anyone can do to ever hurt me.
Yeah.
And because of that, when your when your bad emotions die, your good emotions also die. So it's never on the one side. Like it's you can build resilience over time that nothing affects you anymore. And you see, like in life, there's a place for feelings. There's a place of emotions, and so for me, I think because I have gone through, I have seen bullies, I have seen them in all shades and colors. I got to a point, I realized that I needed to protect myself.
Yeah.
And I overprotected myself. So in overprotection, you begin to understand that you're no longer emotional like as people are. So people want you to react in a certain way, and you don't have it in you to react in that way. Like you don't have it in you to express emotions like everyone else does. And so I could be happy, but I would not show. I was having a conversation in the morning, and I was telling the people around me that I don't live off of the high of applause.
Yeah.
I don't care like for applause. Like I tell myself I'm good enough, and that is it. Like I don't need anyone else to be able to overemphasize how good I am. And so it puts me in trouble when I get to meet people who live off of validation.
Yeah.
I don't know how to validate you. I that's not how I'm wired. And so I think you can cross the line definitely. And that's why I'm on therapy. I think we'll talk about therapy as well. But then I think there's just a very thin line between building resilience and just being emotionally
So
dead.
it has like two sides to it. On
Yes.
some aspect, you're able to protect yourself, but in another aspect, you're also closed off. Which makes me wonder, when do you strike a balance? Like between me building this wall and me just being able to live for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, yes, I have equally been through situations that made me closed off for a really long time, and I thought that was me protecting myself, but just having my guard up. And until I started relaxing to some point is whereby I was like, yeah, then I have
Yeah.
been so guarded,
Yeah.
you know. And just like you said, it took therapy for me to able to even realize that this was me and these things were happening. So when do you strike like a balance?
Yeah, so for me, I've had to do therapy. So I have a therapist, and I think one of the things she told me that was very profound is when I am unable to ask for help.
Yes.
And it stems from my inability to trust people and trust myself. And so I went through, she gave me a clip around anatomy of trust,
Yeah.
and why people feel that when you don't ask them for help, you're not connected to them enough.
Yeah.
Like it's a betrayal. That people need you to ask for help the same way you get help from them. And I think one of the things that I've suffered a lot as a result of it is not needing anyone. I don't want to feel like I need you so much, like because you will be betrayal. I think when you go through a lot of betrayal, you get to a point like you want to only rely on yourself because you're the only one who can count on yourself.
The
And maybe-
hyper independence that comes
Yes.
with it. Yeah.
So I am hyper independent. I don't ask for help. I have struggled with it. I think it's something that I'm beginning to do right now. And even you realize that when I ask for help, I am like a terrible micromanager at times. because if you don't do it the way I want it to be done, I won't be patient enough to tell you like I want you to do it like this. I'll go ahead and do it myself.
Yeah.
So those are things that I'm in therapy for. I think there's a balance that needs to be there in life.
And then again, for somebody like you, what's really beautiful is you actually felt like this is something I need to deal with, and you sought like help from the therapist.
Yeah.
Most people will just go about being hyper independent, not caring how it affects them or affects others.
Yeah.
But for you, you came to a point of insight. You're like, let me get help through a therapist.
Yeah.
So imagine people who don't realize that.
Yeah.
They just live like that with the hyper independence, all that emotional walls.
Yeah.
I feel like it becomes a burden at some point.
Yeah, it does. But then you don't even really know it, and that's why it takes a place of self-awareness, pausing and thinking, and asking yourself, why do I behave the way I behave? Why do I do all these things? And although it doesn't matter to me, I don't care if you like me or you don't.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, there has to be a place that in you to be able to extend grace to people.
Yeah.
So I really struggled with extending grace because one of the things that happened as I built resilience was not being able to relate very well to people, especially like stupidity. I'm like, think. Everyone has a brain. I'm not here to think for you. Just think for yourself. And I think part of it is you get to a point like humans are relational, and so like if you cannot relate to people at the same wavelength that they need you to relate to them, then you begin to become a bit dysfunctional. And I think over the years I've become dysfunctional in that way. If you wait for me for validation, you will probably not get it. And I'm working on that. And I think we need to talk about therapy.
But it's good you're working on it.
Yeah.
It's so brave.
Yeah. And so people say a lot that there's a rise in mental illness.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there's a rise really, or that people are just more self-aware on some of these things. From your experience as a professional, can you say that there's a rise in mental illness?
Yeah, there is a rise, but then again, it's because people have not been aware. Remember, mental health is something that has been there since ages. But if you realize, even at the hospital where I work in, the first time they employed a clinical psychologist was when the wave of COVID came in. This tells you how terrible it is. It took COVID for people to realize, there is actually something called mental health. While we agree there is a rise due to everything that's going on. Let's take, for instance, the situation in the country. Economic situation, there are a lot of struggles that people are going through at the end of the day. These are some of the things that, make a lot of people get into mental health problems. And the conversation is endless on what can make mental health matters arise. While there is a rise, the conversations have been there the conversations have not been there from way back. And that's why it's a subject that is so overlooked, that when things are coming up right now, people think it's rising, but it's been there. These are things that people have been dealing with at the end of the day. Yeah. And
so there's a rise that we can be able to attribute to the fact that there's more reporting and people are more self-aware.
I won't say self-aware. I would say more breakdowns. Personally, from where I work in, I can't say it's self-awareness. Like, the problems are coming up more and more. You find more problems with relating with others, more mental health breakdowns, and these are the things that are making people to actually come and seek for help. But not that the awareness is getting higher at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So does it have to take you breaking down to actually seek mental health services at the end of the day? I feel so. As I was saying, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to take you breaking down personally, you passing trauma to your children to realize there is actually a problem that I need to deal with. And that's why one of my main agendas is just heavy on the awareness creation. I feel like people don't know, and that's why we're getting to a point of things being like this, because it's getting messy and messier. Yeah, but at the end of the day, my only hope is the more people come out with the problems, the more we realize that we need to cover a wide scope of people, and awareness is going up.
Yeah.
While the problems are arising, awareness is also going up, and more people are becoming more and more aware of mental health.
Yeah.
And I feel that's the positive aspect of it, the
Yeah.
only positive aspect I can pick from it.
Okay. So before we go to the warning signs, like
Yeah.
things to look out for, because there are people who like they laugh all the time. Maybe
Yeah.
think they're okay, they're
Yeah.
funny, and they're wherever, but we are beginning to realize even that emotion could be leading to something. But I'm always very curious to get to understand, like, these people who of course have mental health problems, and then and they're very pronounced. I say, like, people have health problems at different degrees.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that there's people who are like 100%
Yeah.
okay, but then when you find that you're being abused by someone under the guise that they have they have a mental illness,
Yeah.
what do you do? Because I've seen scenarios where people think their mental health is more important than someone else's mental
Yeah.
illness.
Yeah.
So let's say you're in a family setup or you're in a work environment,
Yeah.
and someone is always crying mental health, but they're the biggest abusers, in terms of they abuse your space as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and they invade it as well, and you're able to attribute some of the things that they're doing as affecting your own mental health.
Yeah.
How do you still express compassion at the same time also draw boundaries around yourself?
Boundaries, very nice thing that you talked about. So at the end of the day, mental health problems, while it is a very sensitive topic and a very sensitive thing, it is not an excuse for bad behavior, and that is what we need to know. While you can experience mental health problems, you can still treat others with the same decorum you expect to be treated with. And it comes down to boundaries. Boundaries are simply how we treat others and how we'd like others to treat us. So I feel like we need to have open and honest conversations, and you just call it out at the end of the day. You need to know, work with them to a point whereby you know these are the boundaries I'm drawing in terms of how I want you to treat me, and I would treat you in the same way in return, and just have a conversation at the end of the day.
So
Because sometimes
if they're mean to you, you are allowed to be mean to them as well.
no, have a conversation with them. Tell them I will not continue tolerating this behavior, and I've seen this and this and this. And sometimes we encourage a lot of things that can be solved through a simple conversation. At the end of the day, try talking to people and see if the behavior changes. If it does not now, it means there is a bigger problem. It might be a warning sign at the end of the day that this person also needs help. Remember, when you're dealing with somebody who's struggling, sometimes they won't always know how they affect others until they get the help they need at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they are mean to you, what is your reaction?
You can't be, I don't
You
know,
can't
I
be
really
mean.
don't believe in being mean.
So what do you do?
Okay, I've worked
How
in
does
situations-
drawing boundaries look like?
Drawing
Like,
boundaries could be you talking to that person.
if you talk to them and it passes.
And it
the
passes.
behavior.
Now that one.
And maybe this is a family member or a work colleague that you can't. Maybe we can just leave that open and you
Okay.
can comment.
Yeah, you guys let us know, how do you deal with such a situation where
Yeah.
like a person is constantly mean despite you trying to
Yeah.
tell them, you know, this is how your behavior affects me, and
Yeah.
I don't want this to go on, but they still go on with it.
Yeah.
With the facade of my mental health, you know,
Yeah.
I have mental health problems.
Yeah.
But I really don't believe mental health problems are an excuse to treat people badly. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, you
Yeah.
can't be experiencing challenges, but does it mean I have to transfer my challenges to you?
Which also makes me always believe that people who cry mental health the loudest might not always be genuine. And that is my personal opinion. Like, having dealt with a lot of people who are always crying foul about their mental health, you always find that the biggest narcissists. And so they over glorify their mental health at the expense of other people. So you can be a narcissist, I'm a perfect person. But then at the end of the day, if you look at the relations and the power relations, you find that most of the time they are the abusers. And so standing up to yourself makes you an abuser as well. So it's just a very slippery slope. And maybe like if anyone has ever dealt with a scenario like that, you can let us know in the comment below how you dealt with it. So back to warning signs.
Yeah.
What are some of the things to look out for in a family member, in a work colleague, in a spouse, in a child around mental illness?
Let's start with the family member. At the end of the day, realize the saddest thing is we can live with people in the house and just overlook the normal day-to-day behaviors that will tell you this person is suffering until they're at a point whereby they're out of control. So in a family member, things like withdrawal, you've noticed of late, she's just in her room, closing herself off. This could be one sign. Lack of interest in the day-to-day activities. Sometimes it could be you loved cooking for your kids, but of late that cooking is just gone and done away with. There is irritation, getting easily irritated. There are a lot of, those are some of the signs in a family member, because remember within a home setup, you know how you relate with someone. At the end of the day, if the behavior starts to even change a little, these are some of the things you know. But then again, for family members, there is a lot of familiarity. So, Patricia, for example, I say I'm living with you and my sister. I noticed for this week, your mood has been off. So, as family members, we will say, by the way, this week, Patakona moods. But this could be the sign that things are not okay. So, to the core, I usually preach kindness, because it is through that you'll be able to talk to that person. Hey, what's going on with you? This week I've realized things are wrong. In work colleagues, absenteeism. Like you're not coming to work. When you show up to work, neglecting personal care, getting overly emotional. Sometimes somebody can be at work, you just say even a simple thing and you notice they're triggered. So these are some of the things that should make you take a step back and ask yourself, is this person actually okay? You're saying in children fits anger outbursts, especially in a child. When you see such type of things manifesting, it should call you back, I feel like those are some of the things that can show you, something is not okay.
And so when it gets to a point that now, like the suicide part, I don't know if there are some warning signs, or if they are more or less the same, that someone is on the verge of committing suicide, and how can we help in this scenario?
Okay, so for suicide, actually it's Suicide Awareness Prevention Month, the whole of September. We're just creating awareness on suicide and just telling people where they can get help. Some of the warning signs of suicide talks about death, constantly talking about death. If it is, for example, a spouse or somebody like that, writing their will and things like that, saying goodbyes, signs of self-harm, that could be a warning sign, things like that. And also just being in a depressed mood all the time, things like that should start telling you some things are not okay. While for suicide, a lot of people can suffer silently at the end of the day. It's not a guarantee that anybody who commits suicide will manifest with these symptoms. So, it comes down to you knowing the people around you, especially family members. And when somebody is even trying to talk to you about something, are you in a space to accommodate them? Because I remember there was a time it was going on in Twitter, I think it was a teacher who committed suicide. But he had gone around writing notes for his friends and telling them the entire week, like, I'm going to do this to myself because my girlfriend did this, and nobody took it seriously. People were like, so the mentality that is
attention.
It's attention, but sometimes it's not attention. Sometimes it's just a genuine cry for help.
And so what can we do? Like, you have seen the signs of depression, you've seen the signs of suicide, and you want to be able to be there for them and to help them. What are some of the things that we can do?
Honestly speaking, for suicide, since it's a very delicate matter at the end of the day, you will not be in a scope to help them, but get them professional help. Get professional help at the end of the day.
Okay. So I think for me, this has been a very great learning experience, even on how to deal and what are some of the things to look out for. And I've loved the discussion around resilience and crossing the boundary to now get to a point that you're emotionally dead. But then I still feel that we need to be able to converse more. I think it's things that conversations will really, really help to be able to sort some of these things. And we are open to having those conversations. So feel free to write your questions down below. So Janelle works at KCRH, but also is our resident psychologist at STADA. So reach out to us in case you need help. So one of the things that you need to really be aware of is the fact that help is there. You only need to look for it. And part of looking for it is you first recognizing that there is a problem. So if you feel that you need to talk to anyone, we'll leave our contact. I'll leave my contacts down below. If you need to talk to Janelle, I will lead you to Janelle. Please take some time to talk to someone and to discuss it with someone. And you never know, you could get help. Maybe the help is just next door and you don't know. And I hope that this was a great learning experience for all of you. Thank you, Janelle, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll have more discussions around mental health. So feel free to ask your questions down below and you'll be able to answer. On the Suicide Awareness Month, I don't know if you have a message for anyone, any relative, any person who is struggling because maybe their family member, their colleague, their friend actually committed suicide, and how probably they can cope with that.
So for Suicide Awareness Prevention Month, the first thing I would like to say is just to us as people. Sometimes the warning signs are easier to spot and sometimes they're very hard to notice. So first of all, check in on those around you, extend a hand of kindness to people around, and just know that it's okay not to be okay and help is available. So you don't have to struggle alone. There is no shame absolutely in experiencing challenges at the end of the day. So if you feel like you're at that point where you're at the very end of things, kindly reach out for help. There are a lot of places that you can get help. Personally, I advocate for Chiromo Hospital Group. They have an X space on Twitter. You can find a lot of helpful materials. Check out Mathari National Hospital. Gen Z, I know all of you are on Twitter. Check out those Twitter spaces. And then again, we've said we'll drop our contacts down below. And if we cannot be at a position to help, we can link you to the resources that are available. Sending love to you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Until next time. Bye.